In this little snippet, I will be talking about what is going on in someone's cells when they are diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. But before we talk about type 2 diabetes, I'm going to talk about the normal process. So, DNA in the pancreas, DNA is transcribed into mRNA, which is then translated into insulin. And insulin is going to be the blue triangles. Insulin is then released into the bloodstream. Let's draw a couple more insulins, and then... that's good enough. Let's draw one more. And because I am super excited for Thanksgiving, and I really want turkey, we're just going to say that we had our Thanksgiving feast. And this is our glucose from the Thanksgiving feast. And the blood, the glucose is in the bloodstream. Now glucose needs to get into this cell membrane, but it can't. Not yet, at least. And this is why insulin is such a big component into this whole process. Insulin attaches to the insulin receptors, which is also IR. And when that happens, a signal is released to the GSV, which GSV stands for glucose storage vesicle. The GSV has GLUT4 attached to it, and GLUT4 is also known as glucose receptors. Those glucose receptors are then released onto the cell membrane. After this happens, now the glucose can go into the cell membrane. It's like a little bridge. So the glucose is in. Bam. Glucose is in. Now once the glucose is in the fat cell, it can go two ways after that. It can go through glycogenesis or glycogen. Glycogenesis is when the extra glucose is stored from this fat cell, and it looks like a branch. And that's our glycogenesis right there. Glycogen is when the mitochondria, when the glucose goes into the mitochondria, we'll have our mitochondria right, we'll have to erase some stuff. We'll have our mitochondria right here. We'll make him happy because he's going to get some glucose. Once the glucose goes into the mitochondria undergoes cell respiration. And so yeah, that is basically the normal functioning. Now we're going to talk about type 2 diabetes, which we're going to erase our little mitochondria friend. So in type 2 diabetes, everything basically works out the same. The only difference is that it works too hard. And it produces too much insulin, and eventually the systems just get tired. So for an example, our GSV could get so tired of releasing GLUT4 that eventually it just doesn't have the energy to release anymore. So because GSV never releases, this whole process never happens. Okay? So that whole process of getting the glucose into the fat cell, it never works. Because the GSV never released its GLUT4. So that's basically it. So basically I have a summary of what I just scribbled on the board. Type 2 diabetes functions somewhat the same as normal functioning. The only thing is that the systems eventually get really tired and they quit. And so that's basically it. Make sure you like and subscribe this video. And yeah, have a good night.